Good afternoon, students. Today, the topic would be bread faults. We will be discussing regarding the various bread faults and how to uh, rectify these bread faults. To understand bread faults, we need to understand what is meant by the term good bread. There are few parameters by which a professional judges the quality of the bread. Those parameters are as follows. First, volume. Second, bloom of crust or shine. 3. Color of crust and crumb. 4. Texture and structure. 5. Shape. 6. Moistness. 7. Flavor. 8. Taste. 9. Oven break. Now we will discuss about ideal bread according to those parameters mentioned above. Number 1. Volume. It has to be considered that the relation to its weight. We can say specific volume. Too much volume will make the bread stale or crumbly, whereas less volume will turn the bread less flavored and heavy. Number 2. Bloom of crust or shine. This is a really delicate quality of bread. A dull bread will reduce the eye appeal of the bread, and an artificial shined bread will clearly indicate the presence of a chemical in bread, which again can be repulsive for the guests. 3. Color of crust and crumb. Crust color supposed to be attractive golden brown. Preferred crumb colors are like white or light brownish according to the grade of wheat. Number 4. Texture and structure. Crumb texture has to be light, soft, fluffy, and consists of small even gas pocket networks, gluten networks. Any unusual hole, damages in crumb should be avoided. Similarly, a smooth, even crust is desired in good bread. Number 5. Shape. Symmetry in shapes is a characteristics of a good quality bread. Number 6. Moistness. The quality of the bread is judged by the amount of moisture present in the breadcrumbs. Number 7. Flavor. The taste of any bakery product could be fully appreciated only when it is accompanied by matching the flavor. A number of acids, byproducts, and alcohols are responsible to produce the right flavor for the bread. These products are generally produced during fermentation only. So it is very important to give proper fermentation time to get good quality of bread. Point 8. Oven break. When the open top bread is getting baked, then upper and side surface crusts form earlier than the bottom surface. At that stage, gas that has been produced inside the crumbs escape out through the part where the crust yet to form, or you can say weaker part. Escaping of gas also can create some openings, which technically is known as oven break. Some other common bread faults, symptoms and reasons. Flying top, also known as an exaggerated break, wild break or flaked crust. Symptom, here the top crust, instead of rising, gradually burst open under the pressure of expanding gas. Reasons: inadequately conditioned gluten, insufficient proofing, excessive heat in the oven, lack of diastatic activity in flour, lack of humidity in proofing chamber. Bread is not covered during proofing, which may lead to skin formation on the top of the bread, especially in molded breads like loaves, and that skin will give an unsatisfactory bloom of crust. Point 2. Lack of shine on the crust, lack of break shred. Lack of shine on the crust. The reason for this. Okay. Point number 1. In an oven, over fermented dough, gluten, will lose its resistance power and will have excessive elasticity. In such a case, gluten will not produce any break shred during baking. An under-kneaded dough can be another reason, and over-proving can be one more reason. Another fault, condensation marks. Symptoms: dark color patches on the crumb. Reason: point number 1. If the bread is not cooled properly before packing, some of the water vapors will deposit in the crumbs. Uneven textures. Reason: Over fermented dough, under fermented dough. Stales dries rapidly. Symptoms: rapidly drying of the crumbs. Reason: first point, too cool oven, due to which baking time is prolonged, hence more evaporation of moisture. Point 2, too high dough temperature, which again causes undesirable evaporation of moisture. Point 3, over fermented dough with open structure, which enables rapid drying. Point 4, too tight dough with less fermentation time. Point 5, use of milk without related changes to the ratio of fat and liquid. Point 6, excessive use of mineral improvers. Sticky or over moist crumbs. Reason: point 1, when flour is milled from sprouted wheat, it will have excess diastatic activity, means excess formation of sugar and dextrin, which can impart gumminess. Point 2, excessive humid proofing chamber. One more fault, closed dense crumbs. Symptoms: tight and dense crumbs. Reason: using excess milk, or milk has tightening effect on gluten. Use of excessive fat, excessive or oxidizing improvers, over molding, underproof dough, tight dough, too high oven temperature. Fault number 7, crumbliness of crumb. This bread will not slice neatly and may break into fragments by the pressure of the slicer blades. Reason: due to too over or unfermented dough, too slack dough, too tight the dough, excessive fat or too low amount of fat, excessive mineral improvers, low salt content, pure quality of flour, under mixed dough, under baked bread. 8, lack of color of crust. Reasons may be too over fermented dough, insufficient sugar, insufficient salt. Too dark crust color, excessive sugar. Reasons is excessive sugar in formula, too much diastatic activity in dough, unripened dough, young dough, too high oven temperature, high salt content, too cold temperature, lack of humidity in the oven. 9, leathery crust. The reason for this is under fermented dough, used too strong flour without giving enough time mature gluten strands, excessive humidity in oven or proofing chamber, too slack a dough. 10, blisters which appear on the bread, air bubbles on the crust. The reason may be a very humid proofing room can deposit droplets of water on the crust of the bread. That droplet can increase the elasticity of the gluten due to the presence of excess moisture at that point, which may cause blisters during baking if the dough is too slack when not mixed properly. Air pockets present in the dough. 11, hard or flinty crust. Symptoms: very hard crust breaks like an eggshell. Reason for this kind of a fault: using too strong a flour without giving adequate proofing time, or the dough is mixed too tight, or too much use of oxidizing improvers. Another common bread fault: too thick crust. Reason may be less amount of oven spring can cause this problem. Less amount of oven spring can happen due to lack of diastatic activity, lack of sugar and fat in the formula, poor quality or too strong flour, over fermented dough, lack of moisture in the oven. Less volume in the bread. The reason can be the dough is mixed, the dough is kneaded too tight, too little or excess yeast, under fermentation, crusting of dough, excessive salt or sugar, under proving, too less amount of salt, over or under mixed dough. If your bread is having an excessive volume, even this is one of the faults of the dough of the bread. The reasons can be too slack a dough, lack of oven temperature, lack of salt, too much of yeast, excessive proving, loose molding. If your bread has a lot of holes and tunnels, symptoms will be elongated holes or tunnels in crumb. Reason maybe this happens if some gluten strands get damaged. They also try to damage all neighboring gluten strands until gluten starts to coagulate under the action of heat. The reasons for damaging gluten strands may be too soft flour, too strong flour with high yeast content. Actually, too strong flour needs to be fermented for longer period to condition the gluten properly. Otherwise, gluten strands break because of the excess gas produced by the extra yeast. If enriching ingredients like milk, eggs, fat are not mixed properly or form lumps in the dough, these lumps can create extra pressure on gluten strands in order to damage them. If the oven is too hot, the sole forces the lower part to set faster, but the inner part of the dough will still rise and create holes. Improper knockbacks. Large gas cell pockets present in the dough can burst during baking to create this fault. These large gas pockets need to be removed during knockback. Excess flour that has been used to dust the dough, if folded in flour, that also can create holes or tunnels in the side. Sourness in the dough. Reason can be over fermentation, excess yeast, less amount of salt, high room or proving chamber temperature, rope, which is also a term affecting bread. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.